Time management. This was a massive slide deck, ironically, last year, and I definitely took the full chainsaw to this and have carved it down. And it is very much time management for rookies. It's time management for newbies. It's time management for people who are trying to get off the ground. So there's not a lot of, make time for yourself in here because you don't matter right now. You kind of don't. I mean, what matters is survival, right? So we don't spend time or energy. We don't spend, we invest. And that nuance, I think, is very, very important because you need to be thinking about what are you investing your time in. You don't spend time with a loved one. You don't spend time with family. You invest that time. That's an investment. And a failure to invest that time, well, you see what the return on investment can turn into, if you're not careful, right? And as I say, we invest, we invest, we invest all of our time, all of our energy, whether you're watching a movie, standing in line, making phone calls, spending time with a loved one, you're not spending any of it. I know I just said it, right? You're investing it. You're investing that time, and what is the return on that investment? That's what you got to be keeping. The key to successful investing. That's right, we could be keeping in mind, pardon me. The key to a successful investing is what? Effective management. Effective management of those investments. Now, I am going to say start with rest because it matters, right? Science backs the value of a calm mind. I value quiet time. I value thinking time. And that's really what my nap time largely is. It's restorative, but it's also thinking time. It's when a lot of data goes from the RAM to the ROM and a lot of solutions present themselves upon waking from a brief 20-minute nap. And this next slide kind of proves the point, right? Recent review of all available napping literature found that the optimal nap duration was 20 to 90 minutes between 1 and 4 p.m. So the nap does matter. And if you're going to crank out those calls all morning, I'm saying you got to be always on, but at the same time, I am giving you permission to take a 20-minute nap. Set your timer, get a sleep mask, turn the lights down, do not get into bed, do not get into a comfortable position, lie on the floor. Do something mildly uncomfortable, but it'll allow you to go to sleep for 20 minutes. And like I say, it's science. I use Headspace as a combo with my nap. I've had Headspace now for 5+ years. Well, actually, I pulled up the stats the other day. So my average Headspace meditation, which I turn on every day around 3 o'clock, I set my timer for 22 minutes. I turn on a Headspace app for 21 minutes. For some reason, my average is 18 minutes. But in the last, I think it was 2016, joined in 2016. So in the last 6 years, I've spent 37,000 minutes collectively resting, napping, meditating, restorative. And actually, my most recent run streak is 53 days in a row, because this was 2 days ago. 53 days in a row. And this is how important this is to me. This is a crucial piece. So as much as I'm going to say you need to be always on, the only way you can actually be always on is if you are well rested. And if you're not getting a good night's sleep, if you're tossing and turning, the nap is that much more important. And the cost of Headspace is $149. It's the best $149 you could invest. You're not spending it, you're investing it. And that 20 minutes a day is pure gold. It transforms your mood, your energy levels like nothing else, like nothing else. And there's nothing like a quality day at the beach with the kids, right? Okay, you get the nap wherever you can get the nap in. Pro tip, what's the #1 way to damage a relationship? It's being cranky, right? It's being cranky, so stop being cranky. Get better sleep, get that nap in there somewhere. And if you really want to understand how important sleep is, invest in this book. This is one of the best books. I've read several on sleep, and this is one of the best books on sleep I've come across. He's also been interviewed on a number of different popular podcasts, Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. And he gets into the power of the nap and everything else. I won't expand beyond that, but the sleep is vital. It absolutely matters. It's how you maintain your focus. It's how you're able to succeed. It's what it really boils down to. And again, another pro tip, and I use this for the 12, 14, and 16-hour days I foolishly had over the past month building these 3 slide decks. 1,000 slides don't just throw themselves together, as it turns out. But I didn't sit at my computer for 5 hours nonstop. That's not smart. That's not healthy. It's actually not safe as you advance in age. You're statistically that much more likely when you do stand up from a prolonged period of sitting to have a heart attack and keel over. So get up and move. Radically reduces your chances of heart attack and cardiovascular disease just moving for as little as 2 minutes per hour. So if you're sitting for more than an hour, you're going into the danger zone, right? I don't have the rights to the track, Highway to the Danger Zone, but that's all I got. I got robbed. It actually comes up in another slide, too. But as I say, I would set my timer for 50 minutes, and at the 50-minute mark, I would get my butt up out of the chair and move. I'd go down the stairs, grab a glass of water, move around a little bit, maybe throw the weighted vest on and go for a hike, or maybe it was just a 2-minute break. Fine. But move, move, move. Very, very important. It's easy in our business to get planted in that chair for way, way too long. Now, to schedule is to plan. And much like planning, scheduling is invaluable. Schedules are kind of useless, but you need to try and build a schedule, especially when we talk about making the calls. When are you going to actually make the calls? You have to actually make an appointment with yourself to make those calls. And you need to be purposeful with your time. And what I mean by that is, again, it kind of goes back to that earlier remark that I made about never saying no to anybody in your life except friends and family. Look, in the early years and the early days and the early weeks and months of this business, you need to be very, very purposeful with your time. When you look back at the end of the day, what have you done with your day? How many outbound calls have you made? How many e-blasts have you created? How many templates have you started to write? How many contacts have you added to your database? How many contacts have you reached out and connected with on LinkedIn? How many new Facebook friends have you made? Like, you have to be out there, and you have to be letting people know what you do for a living. They can't refer you if they don't know what you do. But you need to be very purposeful with your time. You need to be able to say no to things that are not going to serve the business. And look, the truth is, if it isn't written down, it won't happen. And again, that's where we're going to get into more worksheets, where we're writing more things down. They're coming. They're coming. And I always have this slide in every presentation because you need to be ruthless with your time. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can interpret that, but you need to recognize you have to survive. You have to survive in this business. You have to protect your time. And what are you actually doing with your time? Is it serving your needs? Is it serving you? Is it serving your business or not? Will this thing I'm being asked to invest my time in return anything at all? Should I invest my time in this thing, right? Odds are, in many cases with meetings, not without an agenda. No meetings without an agenda. Not in person, not by telephone, not happening. I have people all the time that hit me up and they say, hey, can we meet? For what? What are we meeting for? You know, and it almost comes across as rude potentially, like, well, can you, but you don't have to be rude about it. You can sweeten it up, put a little sugar in the language. You know, I'd love to make the time to meet with you. I'd love to invest the time in meeting with you. Can you let me know what specifically the agenda for our meeting would be? What's on your mind? You know, you've got to get to that, because all too often, and actually this just came up recently in a mastermind session, and this is something I think more for ladies than it is for men. But the one broker in particular in the mastermind session I was in Quebec recently acknowledged it. I asked the question. I said, how many times have you been invited to a coffee meeting only to discover that the individual who invited you to that coffee meeting at 10 a.m. on a Thursday, who's a professional in a related industry, and you thought this was like a business meeting, but they think it's a coffee date. And she didn't miss a beat. She said, more times than I can count. More times than I can count, right? That's brutal. I mean, number one, dudes, stop doing that. Like, stop pretending you're trying to meet a woman for a professional reason and then pivot to the personal. That's cheesy. That's just, and it's a waste of time. And ladies, I probably don't have to tell you, I mean, you can see that coming to some extent. And that's been one of the beauties of COVID. It's really taken away a lot of the in-person meetings, and so now they tend to be Zoom meetings or telephone meetings. But even still, if it's a Zoom or a telephone meeting, if there's no agenda, there's no meeting. It's just not happening. And telephone, telephone, telephone. You don't have to park. You don't have to commute. You don't have to deal with putting your face on, putting your hair together. You don't have to do all those things that take me so long to do. So, as I say, telephone, 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 that is your friend. That is a time management weapon. And again, be intentional with your time. And what I mean by be intentional with your time is batch things together. Do one thing and do that well. Batch your client calls. At this hour, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to make outbound calls. And I'm going to do that for the next 1, 2, 3 hours, whatever it is. Batch your underwriting. When you've got 2 or 3 files on the go and you've got to sit down, you've got to find solutions for these files, work on all of them at the same time. Reach out to multiple BDMs at the same time. Try and batch your underwriting hours together. And of course, always batch your drinking time together as well. I threw that in there for you, Rob.
Thank you.
And when. Batch when you're doing these things, right? So people often say, well, when's the best time to make my calls? It's when you're most effective, all right? It's when you're most effective. I know from doing multiple 9 a.m. masterminds, multiple 9 a.m. podcast interviews, that 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, is a great start time for me. 9 a.m. is a great time for me to start just about anything because I've gotten so used to building my day and my energy up so that I can deliver whatever I need to deliver at noon Eastern, you know, Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. Feel like the monster truck jam. But I know that's when I'm at peak energy. So if I've got to do some kind of production, I got to record a video, I got to do a Zoom meeting with a team, I'm targeting noon Eastern. That's the sweet spot for me. When's your sweet spot? I mean, if it's 11 p.m., probably not a lot of people want to receive a call at 11 p.m. But then again, 11 p.m. is a wonderful time, too, to work on some other things where you have no interruptions. And I did mention, you know, schedule rest, schedule negative space. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to schedule very much negative space, negative rest. I got my non-negotiables, my nap block. You don't get that. You don't get that. Tomorrow, we'll talk about scheduling rest. Look, as important as the nap is, calls matter more. Make the calls. Make the calls. And if you really want to sound on, like if you really want to sound switched on, this is a habit I picked up 20 years ago. No, it's a tip I picked up 20 years ago. It's a habit I started 4 years ago, and I recently abandoned due to Roger's tech issues with my voicemail, where people kept saying your voicemail isn't updated, and it just made me so crazy I stopped. So I got to figure out the tech thing on this and get back on this bandwagon. But for the 4 years that I did this, where I updated my voicemail every single day, it resonated. People who phoned and got my voicemail would leave messages, they'd send text messages. Later when I talked to them, they'd say, I can't believe you update your voicemail every single day. It's Thursday, January 12th, and you've reached the confidential voicemail of Dustin Woodhouse. Please leave me a message. I'll get back to you when I'm wrapping up the workshop. Thank you so much. Like, that is really powerful. When they phone you and they hear you say in the opening words of that voicemail, it's Thursday, January 12th, they know you're on. You're on. That's huge, especially if that's one of 3 numbers they've just been given by a realtor to call and talk to a broker. If they get, hi, you've reached the confidential voicemail box with Dustin Woodhouse, give me a call and you get a chance. If they get that, that's not going to do anything. If they get, it's Thursday, January 12th, they're like, wow, this person is next level. Like, they're updating their voicemail every day. Who does that, right? Who does that? You should do that. You should be the one that does that. And near the end of every weekday, around 4 p.m.-ish, you should reach out. you should reach out and send a brief update, a brief email to every active client and to every pre-approval. You're going to build pre-approvals in your book. Now keep in mind, statistically, 1 in 10 of those pre-approvals, 1 in 10 is actually going to turn into a funded transaction, but you don't know which one. So you need to consistently reach out to all 10, 20, 30, 40 of the pre-approvals you have in the books, and the easiest way to do it is an email reminding them that you are available all weekend, because you are available all weekend because you need some business. You got to build some business. You got to build the database. Your pot of gold's got one little trinket in the bottom, and it's not even a real gold coin. It's like from the Jack in the Box. So you have to reach out consistently and persistent, right? Consistent and persistent. So at 4 o'clock on a Friday, send that email out to all your active clients. Let them know where their files are at. Send it out to all your pre-approvals. Send one out to all of your realtor partners, all of your referral sources. Hey, just hope you had a great week. Wanted to let you know I'm around all weekend. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be available, because you will be available. Now, tomorrow, you guys won't be available, but today, you guys, you're available. You're trying to build the database. I'm going to run through 5 quick examples, and I'm going to move through them quickly because I'm going to share the slide deck with you, because the segment will be available later. If you want to take advantage of these and use these, which I strongly encourage you to do, you will find, again, you're positioning yourself as sort of a next-level expert with your clients. Every Monday, with a brand new active purchase that's arrived Monday morning, later that day, what am I saying? Good afternoon. Just a quick note to let you know that your file's packaged and it's in for review with the lender. More news tomorrow. You've given them some news. You've let them know. You've packaged it. It's submitted. It's great. It's happening. Tuesday. No news today, as we expected, because you've already forewarned them. Underwriting's going to take a few days, but I'm going to update you every single day and just let you know where we're at. Let's use the window of time to get the balance of documents uploaded. You're politely asking for the balance of the documents. You going to get me that job letter? I kind of still need that updated job letter. Wednesday. Good afternoon. The lender confirmed they'll review the file tomorrow. Thanks again for completing the documents package in time. Have a great evening. Thursday. Good afternoon. I mean, you're like stressing out. Oh my gosh, it's Thursday. I don't have an answer yet, which, by the way, if I forget to mention it in the future, let's just pause for a second. This is a critical, critical thing. Bring the camera back on me. This is a critical, critical thing that I'm going to share with you. The median realtor in normal times closes 6 files, 6 transactions, 6 N's, as they refer to it in their industry. 6. They get a paycheck every 2 months, the median realtor. And the median realtor right now, they're suffering. They're looking at a paycheck every 3 months, 1 paycheck for 4 months worth of work. When that realtor hands you their client, and that client is saying, I haven't heard from my broker for 4 days. I don't have a commitment yet. Not only is the client freaking out, they're freaking out even more, because I guarantee the realtor is really starting to freak out, and the realtor is going to start suggesting their broker, their banker, that the client go into their own bank. They're going to undermine you unintentionally. The realtor is your partner. The realtor is your friend. The realtor loves you, and you love the realtor because you've introduced yourself to the realtor, right? You're not a complete ghost to the realtor. But that realtor has 2 months, 3 months pay riding on the line. So they're stressing, and that stress can be contagious. So keep that in mind. Like for you, it's another file you're working, and it matters because for you, it could be the 1 file for the month. It could be the 1 file a week because you're kind of consistent. Hey, it could be one of the 2 files a week you close, and everything's cool. And you know, you could be really laissez-faire, like, yeah, you know what, I close 1, 2, 3 files a week. I work 4 or 5. They don't all close, no big deal. Like that is not what a realtor wants to hear, right? The realtor needs to know you're all over this thing. And one of the ways is these regular communications with the client. And if the client is willing, you can also send regular updates to their realtor. You could CC them if the client gives you permission to do that. Friday. Phew. Good morning. Complete commitment package will be prepared by 2 p.m. today. Can we connect for a Zoom call to review and sign together then? Okay, one more piece that I want to really highlight here. Very important. We're in a zone where almost everyone's using DocuSign, and almost nobody is reading what they're signing. Think about the DocuSigns you've been sent for a car lease, a boat lease, a trailer lease, snowmobiles, jet skis, whatever stuff you leased, which you might be kind of going, damn, why did I lease that stuff right now? Any kind of document you've been sent, a real estate purchase of your own. Odds are, I know some of you for sure have just gone tap, 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 send. You have not read anything that you signed. You have no clue. And you know, in car leases, it's really interesting because if you ask verbally, hey, can I pay this lease out whenever I want? Oh yeah, no problem. Is there a penalty? Nah, there's no penalty. You realize in most car leases now, it's actually written that you can prepay the lease early, but you will pay the entire interest amount due to the end of term. Very few people realize that because very few people read the document. And how do you think that plays out? And I think the potential for a lawyer to come after a car sales company, a brokerage, and say, hey, we see that you sent a very complex set of documents to your client, and they were DocuSigned and returned in 45 seconds. No human possibly was able to read those documents. Can you show us where you took the client through the penalty clauses, the potential payment change clauses? Can you show that you've actually advised this client properly? A little dicey. So I'm still a fan of either booking an appointment live with them or recording on Loom, on Zoom, however you do, recording an entire document signing piece and sending the clients the video. And then you can actually monitor whether they've watched the video or not. I think through Loom you can do that. So pretty important piece there. And remember, no news is only good news when you deliver the fact that there's no news, right? You've got to share with people what's happening even when nothing is happening. And rookies, as I've said, you will never turn your phone off on weekends. You can imagine the flip side of this slide that's coming tomorrow, but you cannot turn your phone off on evenings and weekends. You have to be always available. You have to be always on, because those referrals, they're coming your way, that's magic. And if you miss them, they'll go right on by and someone else will catch them. You've got to catch them. Every one of them matters. Ritual of freedom. Sorry, no auto response on evenings or weekends for you. You are always available. You are always on. Sadly for you, your calendar is going to start to look like this, right? If you color code, as I do, calls, in-person, Zoom, different things, it becomes just this rainbow and this mess of different things happening all over the place because you're kind of at everyone's beck and call. You know, hey, I need you to do this now. Hey, are you available now? And you're just saying, yes, yes, yes. Yes, sir, 3 bags full. I can do anything you want, whenever you want, no problem. Because that's who you have to be in the early days. And the thing is, you ain't got no clients anyway. You've got time, right? You've got time, so you can do this. And so your calendar turns into a disaster. But I guarantee in the future, if you want to truly take control, which again, that's what we're going to talk a little bit more about tomorrow, you could potentially wind up with a calendar like this. Maybe even a 4-day work week calendar, which I know a few brokers have achieved that. Only took them like 22 years to get there, but they got there. And that's pretty awesome. And again, one of the key effective scheduling tools, Calendly.com or OneSub, Schedule Once. Either one of these is fantastic. The scheduling links are a wonderful tool to help your clients guide into times that really do work for you. So yes, you're available whenever you need to be, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with sharing a calendar link so that the client can actually book a time that you've preset, right? And take control with that Calendly tool. You want to be controlling the length of the meeting because then you control the content of the meeting. It's incredibly important that you keep the conversation on point, right? It's very easy to go off into a little rabbit hole and things just wind up escalating. Great example was one the other day a broker shared with me. My clients, it was a broker sharing a story of another broker. Anyway, the clients had suggested that the home was worth $1.2 million. And broker says to the clients, what makes you think that? Do you not know what market we're in? That's a little argumentative. Why are you arguing with your client about the value of their home? Like, as you're filling in the blanks on the application and you ask the value of their home and they say 1.2 million, what do you say? Okay. Why would you argue with them on the opening call? This makes no sense. Who cares what you think it's worth? What you think it's worth doesn't mean any more than what they think it's worth. It's what the appraisal comes in at. That's all that matters. What does the appraiser think it's worth? So why argue on that? Anyway, they pushed back. They said, well, you know, the way the market's gone, I don't think it's actually going to be worth 1.2. It might be under $1 million. That's a pretty big, like, I'm just going to gut $200,000 from your net worth with this one comment I'm going to make to you. That should make you feel good. And it got heated. It got heated. Well, if you can't figure out a way to support the value of our home, you're obviously not the broker we should be working with. And all this is craziness because for all that broker knows, the appraisal actually was going to come in at 1.2, or it was going to come in at $1 million, but now it's a third party that has delivered the bad news, not them. And it's based on 3 comparables with supporting data, not based on the opinion of you. So be careful with your opinions. Things can escalate really quickly. And again, you've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. If your phone isn't ringing, make other phones ring, right? It is a critical, critical piece